Hello to all our Academy lecturers, including our new lecturers. It's great to have a diverse team of talented people who are willing and committed to give this experience to the students. And I want to offer you just this short training video just to remind you of some things we have learned over the years that can make your experience in Academy even better and make it better for the students. The first thing I'll say is that you will notice in your module in the handbook that the module lists the learning outcomes. This is the really important part. The learning outcomes specify what the student will be able to do at the end of your module. The student will be able to preach a sermon or build a team or provide pastoral care. The learning outcomes are what we direct all our effort at. We can change other things. We can change the content. We can change the style of the assessments. But it is important that the students are able to do these things at the end of the module. And so we focus on the learning outcomes with all the decisions we make about the learning experiences and about the assessments that we use. Our whole purpose is that the students will be given these skills and knowledge and competencies so that they will be able to do things that they weren't able to do before. So I just recommend you to give a lot of attention to those learning outcomes and make sure that what you deliver and what you do with students is focused on achieving those outcomes. Let's talk about the learning process. No one knows the learning process better than the learners. And when we've asked students in the past what has worked well for them and what has been difficult, they have come back with some predictable old chestnuts. Some of the things that they haven't appreciated is if there's too much content delivered in class. It's a temptation as a lecturer to want to tell your students everything when you have them in front of you. If there's too much content, it doesn't work for students. It just feels overpowering. And so if there's a lot of content in your module, the answer is to recommend a book or provide notes or make a video that you send to the students in advance so that when you get together in class, you can spend the time engaging with students, with questions, presenting material and the rationale for the different things you're doing, and providing some of the content, but not a full 50 minutes of content in 50 minutes of face-to-face time. A second thing that students say is that they like having notes in advance. If they don't have the notes in advance of class, they feel a bit at sea. They don't quite know what's happening or where it's going. So that's something that they appreciate. They also appreciate early feedback. That if they do an exercise or present a piece of work, they get some feedback within a short period of time so that they know if they're doing it right and what they need to change. They also frequently ask for more practical exercises and interaction, an opportunity to engage with their colleagues, and an opportunity to actually do something rather than just listen. And so you can find out from your students in your particular module what works best by asking them. And I suggest that you ask them at the second class meeting. So the first time you meet them for class, they learn your style and they see how you're planning to go ahead with this module. But the second time you meet them, I would suggest you begin that session by asking them what's working for them in this module. There are 3 simple little words you can use for this process. The words are stop, start, continue. You can invite your students to tell you, is there something that we're doing in this class that we should stop doing that's not working for you? Is there something we're not doing that you need, something we should start doing? Or is there something that you're loving that we should continue doing? And so those 3 little words can help provoke useful feedback from your students to you. Now, they will be shy about giving you feedback. So you might want to make it easy for them by, a friendly demeanor or being jovial about it, or by even letting them write it down anonymously so that they don't feel that they're, challenging the teacher. What you can also do is mix it up with different styles. People have different learning styles, and very often when classes don't work well for students, it's because a single style has been used, just a lecturing style. It's the lecturer talking most or all of the time. But oral style is one learning style, learning through the ears. But some students have a visual learning style. They like to see pictures. They like to use their coloured pens. And so it's good to provide some sort of pictorial presentation as well. Some have a verbal style. They like to talk about things, use words. Some have a physical learning style. They like to move around or act out what they're learning. Some have a solitary learning style. They like to go away and think about it. And of course, they can do that outside of class time. But some, and this is a big one, have a social learning style. They learn best when they engage with other people, either discussing or teaching someone else. And so if you can provide some breakout times in your class where students can process the material by talking to each other, that is really valuable. I know from a teacher's point of view, you're not at that moment delivering extra content, and that can be frustrating, but this is making it really work for the students, that it percolates down into their minds and hearts, and they find that useful. Another learning style is the logical learning style. People like it to make sense, and they ask all the why questions. So just be aware that in your class, there are people with loads of different learning styles. So if you can mix it up and provide some variety in the way you present material, that gives it a better chance of working for everyone. Let me talk to you now about the assessment process. First of all, let's talk about grades. The grades that we award for different modules are A, B, C, and N. So the grades are based on the learning outcomes. We hope and expect that our students will get a grade B. A grade B means that the student achieved the learning outcomes with merit. They achieved the learning outcomes in the way we hope they will achieve the learning outcomes. So if it's a homiletics course, they can now preach a sermon the way we'd love to see them preach a sermon. If it's a team exercise, they can now know how to build a team. They're able to build a team, or they're able to build a launch team for a new church. So B is what we're hoping for. They achieve the learning outcomes with merit. A C grade means that students achieve the learning outcomes, but not to the standard that we had hoped for. So they did achieve the learning outcomes, and it is a passing grade. However, if a student later on applies for credentialing with CCI, if they have any C grades, the credentialing committee will require them to do extra work to make up their knowledge, skills, and competency in those modules. Because the message from the lecturer who assessed their work and gave them a C, the message is that they did not achieve these learning outcomes at the level that we had hoped for and that we're looking for. So grade B and better is needed for credentialing. So we hope all our students do that. But you award a grade C if the standard of achievement was not quite what it should be. A grade A is there if a student exceeds our expectations. They exceed the learning outcomes. So it should be a rarity. And it's a way of acknowledging a student who goes beyond what we asked or expected and delivers stellar work that even exceeds what we require and have hoped for. And the N grade is for a student who did not achieve the learning outcomes. That can be because the work was not handed in or the work was not of a sufficient standard. And all the assessment work will be reviewed by an external examiner before the end of year when we ratify the results at the annual board meeting. So any results you give to students are provisional results because we may review them and adjust them at our exam board at the end of the academic year in June. For more on these grades, I suggest you look at the Academy Handbook, and in particular the section on Academy grading system, which talks a bit more about these ABC grades and how they work. Now, don't just give students a grade. If you give a student just a grade, so that it's a homiletics module, you give them a B, so the student gets a B. So I got a B, I'm a B. And the next time that student will deliver a sermon, it's probably going to be a B again because they don't know what they should do differently. So in addition to grades, if you give your students comments, tell them what they did well, tell them what they could improve, then you're not just giving summative assessment, you're giving formative assessment. Now the assessment itself is also part of a learning process that allows the student to up their game. So a student gets a B in homiletics, but they also get comments which says, Your use of scripture was excellent. Your points were well made, well grounded in scripture. Your presentation was logical. You could be clearly heard. However, you could have used the first few moments of your message to connect with your audience, to let them know where you were going to go with the message. That would have motivated them to connect with you and to go on the journey with you. So your sermon would have been more effective if you had given attention to how you began. Begin with connection and with a sense of purpose. Now the student who gets those comments, they don't just say, I'm a B, I'll always be a B. They'll say, I'm a B, but I could be an A. Next time I'm going to continue to focus on my strengths, but I'm also going to apply this new thing that I've never done before, of making a deliberate attempt to engage with my learners, with my listeners, in a way that forms a connection and gets them on board for the journey involved in the message I'm giving them. So we use assessment also to allow students to grow. So that's what we call formative assessment, not just summative assessment that says this is your grade, but says this is your grade and here's how you could do better. The timing of assessment feedback should be 4 weeks maximum. Students find it difficult if they present a piece of work and weeks and weeks and weeks go by and they get no response. It leaves them a bit at sea, not knowing, was that good? Was it bad? What do I need to do differently? So if you could get all results and feedback back to students within 4 weeks maximum, that would be great. If you need anything else, if you need any help with preparing course materials or resources or marking assessments, or if you're new to this and you want someone else to mark some of your assessments in parallel with you until you get the hang of this, we're here for each other. We are here to work as a team to make this a great experience for the students. So if you need anything else, just ask. So God bless you, and it's wonderful to have you on the team of faculty delivering these modules to students that will equip them in their ministry to serve God and to bless others and to continue to multiply the work of the kingdom. So thank you for listening, and God bless you today.